Hey everyone, today we're going to bring this CSS and HTML piano to life with JavaScript, okay? And to get the HTML and CSS, a guy named Phillip Zastrow made it, and he did a wonderful job, right? Beautiful artwork. So we're going to copy and paste that HTML and CSS into our VS Code folder, and then we're going to add JavaScript to it, right? So go ahead and go to this link here, Zastrow's piano code pen, and grab the HTML, copy it, paste it in your piano folder or whatever folder you choose to call it. And here's that. And then do the same thing for the CSS, right? Copy the CSS from the CodePen and paste it into a style.css file. And don't forget to link up the style.css to your HTML, right? Or it won't work. Next thing we want to talk about is the sounds, right? We need the sounds in order to use JavaScript to add the sounds to the piano. So to get the sounds, here's what I did, right? I made a sound folder, and these are my MP3 files. And to get these files, I did two things. The first is I went to musescore.org, and this is a free music writing software. I downloaded it, and I was able to write out, I think it was like a quarter note in each measure for all the keys on the keyboard. And from there, I was able to use Audacity to record a playback of that Musescore piano track. And then I was able to select each key individually with Audacity, and I was able to export those as MP3 files. And that's where I got all these MP3 files from. Okay, so you can kind of download both of those and toy around with that and get these MP3 files you need for each sound, right? Yeah, so on to the one more thing to talk about with the, and this is old, we can ignore the 5K here. It was before my git ignore file, if you're familiar with Git. So before we go to the JavaScript, let's look at this index.html, and you're going to notice that these keys have different letters for the keys than they do the IDs. That's because when Phillip made this, great job with the artwork, but the keys are actually off, right? So the first key that he has there is actually F, and then G flat, G, A flat. Okay, so these IDs are the correct piano keys, but I'm not messing with the classes he has. Just because the classes he has work well with the CSS he has, and then I would have to go through and find all the different times when he picked out these classes in the CSS, and I'm not going to do that, so I added an ID with the correct key for each piano key, the correct note for each piano key. Okay, on to the JavaScript, right? So create a main.js file, and you're going to want to hook that up to your HTML. And before we do anything with that main.js file, we need to let's install Parcel. So you're going to do, if you haven't already, run npm init-y and initialize a project. And then you're going to do npm I -- save Parcel bundler, because you're going to need the bundler. Parcel is what we use to bundle up all our code together and really get everything working together well. And the last thing is Howler, and Howler is the JavaScript sound library. So hit enter on that, install those three libraries, and that may take a little bit. And once that's done, then we're going to go to that main.js file, okay? And there's going to be a main function in here, and this main function I wrapped in an ify statement. And the reason I did that is because I want this to immediately run upon the program starting. And I could just create a function called main, and then I guess I could call it down here. But I chose to wrap it in an ify, so it's more obvious, like, hey, when the program starts, this is the function that runs right away. And inside of here, I grab he called it set, and I'm not going to change the class that he called it. I'm going to grab this set here of all the piano keys and store it in where'd it go? In a variable called keyboard. And I'm adding a click event listener to it, and it's going to run the function play note when something is clicked. Okay, so And we'll get to this import in a second. So when you play a note, when we go to play a note, it takes in an event, right? You clicked somewhere inside of this guy, and it could be any of these elements, and you may even click on the backdrop, and it'll return an empty string. So that's what this first bit is here. If the event.target.id is equal to an empty string, if you didn't click on any of the keys, then return. Just don't do anything if you click on something that's not a key. Else, we want to render the sound of the key that you clicked on, in which case would be any of these IDs of the keys. Okay, so, and that render sound function is here. It takes in event.target.id. Now I named that event ID, or I named my IDs here, F, G flat, G, A flat. I named them the same as these MP3 files, and I did that for a reason, and that is so when we can dynamically call or select the right sound to play. So we pass this event.target.id in as a variable called note into this render sound, or an argument, right? Arguments and parameters. I guess this would be the parameter argument. This is the argument. This is kind of the parameter. And it comes in, and then we can say, instead of key sounds dot note dot play, because it doesn't work, we do key sounds. And we use this, it's still object notation, but we put it inside of these brackets here. So key sounds, and it grabs the right note and it plays it. And these notes are coming from, right, these key sounds are coming from our sound creator JS file. And this is where we grab all of the MP3s over in this sound creator. So let's head there. And you notice here we import Howl from Howler. So that Howler library we installed, we imported it. And then we say, hey, we want all the sounds from, we want all the MP3 sounds from this folder. If we don't do that, we won't get the sounds. So we have to import them. And I call them raw sounds because they're not Howler sounds yet. And notice this asterisk here, that's how I get all of the sounds. And they're stored in an object of raw sounds. And you'll see that in just a second. Now I made this constructor function called makeHowl. And it creates a new howl for each MP3 sound. So I said const new howl equals new howl. And this bit here is from the Howler docs. If you go to howlerjs.com, you can click on the docs and see all of the functionality of Howler JS. I'm using a very small portion of that functionality. Okay, and I say new howl. And I say the source is going to be the MP3 sound that we pass into this makeHowl constructor function. And then I return this new howl that we made. And then I come down here and I create this key sounds object. And inside of there, I make a key for the key sounds. I should have said piano sounds, right? Because that's confusing, key sounds. But a key for the piano sound. And then I say, hey, make a howl of raw sounds. So one of these MP3s, raw sounds dot, and then it needs to be this MP3 extension before the dot here. So raw sounds dot f will create a new howl of this f MP3, and it's going to store it in this key, or that'll be the value for this key. And then G flat, same thing, raw sounds dot G flat, which is here, everything before the dot, make howl and attach to this G flat key. And it goes the whole way down through all 12 keys. And then I export the entire key sounds object. And over in the main.js, that's where I'm getting this key sounds. And instead of dot note, we need to use this array notation or it won't work, or this bracket notation, but key sounds. And then the event.target.id is the exact same as that particular sound extension that we made over here. So whichever these are, the IDs line up with that, right? So that's the goal, that we can dynamically pick the right sound to play. And that's it. Once you have that, you've got your fully functioning piano in 60 lines of JavaScript. And so it's a nice little project. Took me a morning to do. Hope you enjoy it. If you did, please subscribe, follow, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.